Well, hello everybody. My name is Tony Grillo. Welcome to my channel, Wisconsin Hugs. Today, I am in a place called Northwood, Ohio. And Northwood is kind of like by Toledo, Ohio. And I had to run a load of whey powder to a animal feed place. And then, I don't know if you can see DJ there. Are you coming, DJ? And then I had just enough time to get to Herzl Canning here in Northwood. And so I got my truck loaded and I'm out of hours. So I took a nap, woke up. I have to hit the road. It's about 8 o'clock Central Time. I have to hit the road in about 3 hours, and I got to run all the way to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and deliver this load. It has to be there 11 a.m. Tomorrow morning. But I should be able to make it. I do have to go through Chicago. I'll take the 90 toll road, and hopefully it'll be maybe like 4 o'clock when I hit Chicago, and I shouldn't have to worry too much about the weather. Oh yeah, this is a nice little pond thing. It's maybe about a half mile from Herzl Canning, and it's totally fenced in, and they even have doggy bags. So I assume people bring their dogs here to walk around the pond. And boy, DJ really likes this because it gives him a chance to stretch his legs, and I love that it's fenced in so I can let him run loose, let him get some exercise. Isn't this great? It looks like, I don't know how big this track is. If it's like a high school track, I don't know if that could be. Maybe it looks kind of like a little bigger than a quarter mile. Maybe it's a third of a mile. I'm guessing maybe 3 times around is a mile. I don't know. Maybe I'll find a sign that tells me how far this is. But, yeah, this is really nice. So I'm going to walk around here, and then I'll do a quick video. But I'm going to go enjoy this for a while. So. Hi there. Come here. Yeah. Well, we're just taking a quick little break here, me and DJ. We've walked around this park 3 times now, and just beautiful, gorgeous weather. It's like, I think it's in the high 70s. So, like I said, I have to leave in about 3 hours. I'll be driving about 11 o'clock Central Time, but that's all right. I've done a couple videos, I'm new. I've kind of been on YouTube now for about a year, okay? And trying to figure out what these channels that are hugely successful, what they're doing right. And there's one channel I've been following. His name is Tom Grazzi. He's out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's a big Packers fan, and he claims to be a comedian, which he definitely is. He's very funny. I mean, he has some great videos. One of my favorite videos of him is he did a song, Eminem song, Stan, and he did it like he was Brian Gutekunst, the general manager of the Green Bay Packers. He's sitting in an office trying to call Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron isn't picking up the phone. and he's in a suit jacket. He whips the suit jacket off, and he's wearing the tank top that the white tank top that Stan wears in the video, and he launches into the song Stan, but he makes his own words, and about Aaron Rodgers, and why doesn't Aaron Rodgers call him back, and it was one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. And there was another video he did where, what if every NFL team was a person on Tinder dating, and how would they woo, a potential person date, and that though he did like a 3 or 4 or 5 parter on that. That was hilarious. That was, like, I think with the Minnesota Vikings, he was like, yeah, I love to date, but I'll never give you a ring, or something like that. If you come date with me, and just stuff like that, and like, I think it was New England Patriots. He was like, I think he was like, yeah, I've been to the altar 6 times, I have 6 rings, and just really creative, very funny. And right now he's doing 30 stadiums in 30 days. I think he's doing it as a part of a fundraiser. And I started watching him when he only had like 100K, and now he's almost at 500K, and this has been like 3 or 4 or 5 months. So he's shot up. He's probably going to hit 1 million. No doubt about it. He's going to hit 1 million, Tom. And it's been fun watching him and his success. And he goes to all these stadiums, and he has fans that are there waiting for him. And he's doing videos with his fans that all over the country, because he's a big football guy. And he actually has characters for each team. Like Washington, when he puts on his Washington Redskins jersey and he pretends to be the Washington Redskins fan, his character's name is Wildflower, and so and he does that with some of the other teams too, where he has a certain type of character. Like, I think the character he does with the Patriots is kind of like a stuck-up person, and it's hilarious. And he talks with a Jersey accent, when he's doing the Bills, and he did one where he was like, the grown-up table, only like, it was like Thanksgiving and all the teams were together, and he had a grown-up table, and the Jets wanted a seat at the grown-up table, and they're like, you haven't earned it yet, you can't sit here at the grown-up table. And the other teams were sitting there, like the Patriots and some of the other ones, and that was funny. That was another funny comedy bit he did. So anyways, I was talking about Star Trek Picard. I'm going to finish up with my review of season 3. I'm not going to try to dive too much into the storytelling, but the reason why I do Star Trek is because I think Star Trek came out right about the same time I was born. I was born in 1969. And but so I was a baby when it first came out, but I caught the reruns. The reruns got really popular, and I was maybe 5 or 6 years old at that time, and I would catch because there wasn't much on TV. We only had 4 channels, 4 or 5 channels, and I was a little kid. I was maybe at home, and Star Trek reruns would show up, right around the afternoon schedule, right close to dinner time. So, I could watch Star Trek right before we'd eat dinner, and I was hooked. Even as a 5, a 6-year-old, I was totally hooked on Star Trek. I loved all the different worlds and the possibilities, and the travel, and I loved the characters and their storylines, and Kirk and Spock, and McCoy and Chekhov and Sulu and Scotty and Uhura. I mean, just great. It was just a fun time and of course Star Wars was hugely popular. I liked both. I wasn't one of those guys that's thought you had to like one and hate the other. No, I liked them both. I did. I loved Star Wars. Star Wars was my very first movie I ever saw in the movie theater. So, being I was 7 or 8 years old when Star Wars came out. I think I was 8 years old, and it was the very first movie I ever went to the theater to see. And I tell you what, after Star Wars being your very first movie you ever see in a theater, every movie after Star Wars that I saw was a huge disappointment to me. It could never equal to my experience watching being Star Wars being my first time ever movie. I was blown away by Star Wars. I thought all movies were supposed to be Star Wars, and so I really did enjoy Captain Picard, Picard season 2. I enjoyed 1, 2, and 3. I know I forgot to mention Brett Spiner in season 2. He was fantastic as Noonien Soon. And we finally get to meet a young Noonien Soon because they went back in time. And so we got to meet that. Because we did get to meet him when he was an old man in Star Trek The Next Generation. But we got to see him as a young man, and boy, he was a pain in the you-know-where. I really hated him. I hated Noonien Soon. I was like, the guy was like a little weasel, you wanted to, he kept getting in the way of what, it wasn't enough like Kirk and Spock had to just go back in time and get a couple humpback whales. No, they had a lot more on their plate. They went back in time and to try to change a timeline where the Federation's evil, and so they're trying to save Picard's great grandma, who's an astronaut, and then they're trying to they have a Borg queen that is on their ship, and she's actually helping them, but at the same time she has her own plans. She wants to go do her thing, which is assimilate. That's what she likes to do. Now, in the future timeline, her Borg were raced, and Picard was known as the Borg Slayer. And so she is the last living Borg, and then they kept her on ice. They totally deactivated her, and they had her in a cryogenic frozen status, and then they woke her up. And they took her on the ship because they needed her help to fight the future Federation, and that's how they escaped. And then they went back in time because they had to fix the timeline and so forth. And so anyways, and Noonien Soon was a pain in the butt, but I did like the part. I always wondered, why did he have the same name as Khan? Because Khan's name is Noonien Soon Khan. And we get a brief glimpse in the final, I think it was the final episode, where Noonien Soon, Brent Spiner, he has failed in stopping Picard. Okay, and so he his experiments, he's been working on trying to create a human. He wants to create a human from his own power. He wants to be God, is what he wants to be, and he's failing at creating a human that can live longer than, I don't know, so many years. Like the longest, and he's gone through all these different daughters, and he names them after Greek goddesses, and he had a whole pile of them and videos of them. And finally, the last one he had, we got to see Wesley Crusher, which that was really cool. Wesley shows up for 2 minutes, but at least we get to see him. And yeah, he's back to that traveler shtick. I never did like his story arc. I never did like that whole traveler thing that Wesley got involved in, but that's what they did with him, because I don't know, at the time he was a kid, and he really didn't belong in Star Trek The Next Generation. He kept saving the ship, and I went to a Star Trek convention where Patrick Stewart was there, and Patrick Stewart even cracked a joke about that, about all the times that Wesley saved the ship, and they actually kind of were glad that he wasn't on the show anymore, because they felt that the show could get better. That they could develop the characters, their own characters, and get better storylines, and not have a kid there, saving their asses all the time, and so, but they did like Wesley, no doubt about it. They liked him, and I love the actor that plays him. I forgot his name, but so anyways, it was great to see him. Even though he's only 2 minutes there, and he takes Picard, Noonien Sun's final daughter, and and they vanish, and they go off doing their traveler thing, and so anyways, but Noonien Sun, Brent Spiner had he got all his data wiped out and by the daughter, and so he opens up a book that was in his desk, a notebook, and it said Project Khan. And now we know why Khan's name is Noonien Sun Khan, although no one really calls him Noonien Sun. But yeah, everybody calls him Khan. That's my Kirk imitation of Khan. But so that was kind of cool. And this is great writing, story writing. Apparently they must have hired writers that were familiar with the Next Generation. Yeah, and the stories that were going on in the Next Generation, or these new writers, whoever they are, they must have did some serious binging on Next Generation stuff, looking for circling back ideas, that they could throw into their normal storytelling, which is awesome, and that's the way it should be. And then final season 3 was I really enjoyed season 3 because it hit upon what Star Trek's all about, and that is themes. Star Trek has always been about family, and honor, and never lose hope, and that's always been the message of Star Trek. And so we got to see a lot of that in when everything looked like it was hopeless, they would come up with something out of their butts, and they'd come up with a win. There was some great scenes in there. One of my favorites was Will Riker when they were escaping from that what was that? It was reminiscent of Star Trek Wrath of Khan in season 3. They were floating around in that I don't know what they call that area there where everything messes with your sensors, and you can't, you're flying blind, and nobody knows where the other person is, and they go in there, but apparently they have a saboteur on the ship, and they're leaking some kind of chemical that the other ship can detect, because they're trying to figure out how the hell this ship can detect them, even though they're in this area of space where that stuff's not supposed to be able to work, and they should be able to, so they're dealing with that. They're dealing with the saboteur, and we find out it's changelings and the Borg have united together. So now the nice friendly Borg that we saw at the end of season 2, well, they're gone. And I think that the writers realized that, yeah, we can't destroy the greatest villain we've ever created in the Star Trek universe. We have to, bring them back the way they are, the way they're feared. We don't want a nice Borg, we want a Borg like the Borg we've seen from the past, and so it was a nice season 2 ending with the nice Borg and their everything. But when season 3 whipped around, they had to go back to that girl, what was her, Dr. Agnes, when she was the queen from season 2. You didn't see her in season 3. She's gone. So there's got to be a story there somewhere as to what happened there. How she eventually must have lost her power and her sway, and somebody else must have rose up against her. Maybe the queen, because she was made up of two beings. She was herself, and then she had a part of the queen inside her too, and the queen must have revolted, found a way to get out of her, and or whatever, or took over Agnes's body. I don't know, but it wasn't Agnes's face. But anyways, so we find a changeling that they can bypass all Starfleet protocols. They can, nobody can detect them. And then we find out there was a plan hatched by the Borg that he needed the changelings' help. And apparently they can they've been working on this for years, and through the use of the transporters, they're able to stick something inside the bodies of every person that's in Starfleet. And apparently, if you're old, if you're over 20 some years old, somehow or another your body is capable of rejecting it. But if you're young, you become with a signal burst from some station. You're now all of a sudden you can become a Borg drone, and that's kind of what happens. Is so. Anyways, the show starts out with a terrorist attack. This incredible weapon that can it's kind of like a huge version of a transporter, but what it does, it lifted a city up into the air, sort of like it was stolen from Daystrom Institute, which was the headquarters of Starfleet Project 31, which is their spy organization, and it was stolen there, and then it was used somewhere in the Federation. They beamed it at a city, and then the city was up in the air, and then they let go, and the city just crumbled and fell to the ground, and all those people in the city died, and it was a huge terrorist attack. But apparently they were using that to cover up something else that they were interested in stealing, and that was the Borg had a plan too, where they wanted to assimilate the entire Federation and all of Earth. And so Picard, he gets a message from Beverly Crusher from outer space, a coded message. He's retired now. He's a retired admiral, and he's back home at the Vineyard, and him and that lady are got the Romulan lady that it seems like they've got a little thing going. And then all of a sudden Picard's ex-girlfriend sends him a message, and she's like, she needs his help. She's calling for help, and she says, do not trust anybody in Starfleet. And so him and Riker, they decide to go on a surprise inspection on this Captain Shaw's Titan, and we find out 7 and 9 is first officer, but she's called Hansen because the captain hates the Borg. He lost a lot of friends in Wolf 359. He's very bitter at Picard. He's bitter at anybody that's Borg, and so he's not all that excited about having Picard and Riker coming to his ship. And little does he know that their plan is they want the Titan to drive them out to where Beverly Crusher is, some area of space where they're not. It's outside of Federation jurisdiction. They want to fly there, and then they want to find out what happened to Beverly Crusher and if they can help her. And so that's kind of what they're doing. But Shaw's like, no, I don't want anything to do with it, and he gives Seven the con, and he goes to bed, and Seven, she takes him because she's buddies with Picard, and she takes him to find out what happened to Beverly, and that's kind of how the whole show goes from there. We find out that the changelings are the enemy, the primary enemy, and they have this really cool looking ship. Kind of reminded me of the Romulan ship in the one movie, Enterprise movies, Picard movie, where they were taking on the Romulans and Picard was battling his clone self. I forgot that guy's name, but anyways, so yeah, they, and then we see this cigarette smoking captain lady. She's kind of short, kind of greasy, slicked hair. It's like really tight to her head, kind of like a big swirl. And she's tiny, but she is loud, and she's really obnoxious and cocky as hell. And she knows she has a far superior ship, and she's just kicking her ass. And then And then she has that weapon. She's the one that was able to take that city and transport it up in the air and then drop it back down on the ground. So she has the weapon on board her ship. She's the one that stole it and has that weapon. And so, anyways, Picard's got to deal with her, and then he finds Beverly and he finds out he has a son. And these people, they want Jack because he has something in his genetic code that we find out later. Picard, when he was Borg himself, they had planted something inside Picard, and apparently that got carried into Jack, his son. It's interesting that Beverly named her son Jack Crusher. That was the name of her very first husband. So Picard and Beverly had a relationship. They were together, and then they broke up because Picard apparently had to go back on some missions, and Beverly knew that Picard couldn't be a dad, and she didn't even tell him he had a son. Kind of like reminiscent of Kirk. Kirk found out he had a son in the movie Search for Spock. I think Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan is when he found out he had a son, David. Same thing with Picard. He finds out he has a son who she named after her very first husband, but Jack Crusher and Picard were best friends, and apparently Jack died on an away mission while Picard was captain, and so Picard always feels bad about that. But anyways, he and Beverly apparently got it on. They had a kid he didn't know about, and so now he gets to meet his kid. And here we go into this whole family thing, which is a theme of. And then what's great about the show is they brought all the characters in, and so we got to see Worf, and we got to see Data comes back, and Data has his own personal issues. He's not really Data. He's another being that was put together by Noonan's son. I think it was either Noonan's son or his son, Alton's son. And so, anyways, Picard, Data's dealing with Lore. There's an internal battle going on between him and Lore, and when Data eventually wins, he wins that battle, but he's still got Lore inside him. I mean, he's not all Data. There's a little bit of Lore in him, and he's a different being now, but he is Data. He does have Data's memories, and he's in a different body. Apparently, this body is very human, like closest to human that they could make. Kind of like what Picard is, because Picard is also in a synthetic human-looking body. So it is interesting that Data is and he retains human emotions, laughter. He's got all of that, love, everything. He's been able to retain all that. So, and we got Worf had a scene where he comes in and he kicks ass. He chops the head off this Ferengi gangster, and it was hilarious. I mean, he was so kick ass in this show. And he looked so cool with his white beard, his white, and he was this warrior with the sword in the back, and he's kicking wherever he goes. He's kicking butt. And in fact, he was fighting Borg, and with his sword, and then they're in trouble, him and Riker, and he hands a phaser, and Riker's like, "You had that on you the whole time?" And he goes, "Well, fighting with swords is a lot more fun." And so, he didn't want to use his phaser. He would rather fight with his swords when he was taking on the Borg in the Borg cube. But so, anyways, it was a great show. I love the way they hid the Borg cube inside the planet of Jupiter, and beside the red spot. That's where it was hiding. That was pretty cool. That's a hell of a place to hide a Borg sensor array, that communication array that can be used to assimilate everybody in Starfleet that's 25 or younger. And so and it was just a great all-time. All the ships are synchronized. They all can be commanded by one person, all the ships. So so what they have to do, they had to go back and bring back the old Enterprise, the very first ship that Picard flew, the Enterprise, the one that he flew 35 some years ago. in Next Generation. They brought that ship back. Apparently, Geordie LaForge, they bring him back, and he's got 2 daughters that are beautiful, and they're fun to watch. And Geordie's back, and he, apparently he's been fixing these ships. He's in charge of their library or whatever, the library, and he's in charge of maintaining all the ships because he's an engineer. That's what he likes to do. So he's kind of like a museum. He's like he runs a museum of old ships, and he's for years and years he's been putting the ship back together, Picard's old ship that they were on, and ship. So what a way to end the show. They end the show with them flying that ship, the one that they flew in from the very first time. And there was one scene in there where Data's like, they had to fly inside the Borg cube in order to transport Picard and Riker and Worf and get them out of there before the thing blew up. And, he's like, Data's like, trust me, I can do this. And then as he flies the ship in there, he's making these impossible calculations and everything. But man, Troy is like, do I sense amusement? Are you having fun doing this? And you can see Data has a smile on his face. He almost looks like Lore when he smiled. He definitely was having fun doing what he was doing, flying that ship in there. And then there's a scene in there where Beverly Crusher fires at the cube, and she takes over Worf's spot, and she says, "Well, I've had a lot of practice," because she did some big time damage, and she knew how to fire the weapons, and she was really good. And there was another scene earlier in there where they were flying out. They were flying the Titan, and Riker was in command, and he hooked onto a big, what do they call that? What do they call that? Those big rocks that float around in outer space. Anyways, he hooked onto one of those and he flung it at the ship that was waiting to kill him, and it knocked the ship out and incapacitated that enemy ship, the Changeling ship. And they were able to get away, and that was pretty cool to see. I love that scene. So anyways, I was, and in the very end of the show, I loved it. I loved the way it ended with them all getting together and playing a game of poker and laughing and talking. And I mean, what a way to end the show, and you brought back the old ship, and then you have them playing poker at the end, and just a wonderful, wonderful ending, wonderful show. And God, I can't believe I talked about it for 29 minutes, but I had a blast watching it. And if you love the show, and like a lot of times I like to do, is I was watching other people's videos that have critiqued the show, and I enjoy listening to what they have to say because I'm a big fan of the show. So hopefully, if you're a big fan of the show, maybe you enjoyed what I had to say, and if not, well, that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed talking about this. Like I said, I'm by myself. I'm out on the road. I'm in a town, Northwood, Ohio, which is by Toledo, and so I'm just enjoying the great outdoors. I do not have a studio like a lot of these successful channels have, so I'm just here with my dog. He's like right there somewhere. There he is. There's my dog. So we're gonna go back and finish our walk and head back to the truck and go to bed and take off later. So, hey everybody, I don't know if I can do the Vulcan thing. I can't. Can I do it with my other hand? There we go. This hand can do it. So live long and prosper. Wisconsin hugs. Oh, I almost forgot to add, I like the way it ended with 7 and 9 getting captain. And we find out that she is the new captain of the new Enterprise that they made. They built this new Enterprise, and she is the captain. And there was a funny scene in there where Picard's son, Jack, walks onto the bridge, and he's like, okay, shields up, everybody arm all weapons. I have no idea what we're getting ourselves into. And then he sits in the chair, and 7 and 9 walks in there and goes, out of the chair, and ignore everything he just said. And so I guess he's the first officer, And Jordy's daughter is flying the ship, and what a great way to end. What a great way to end. So, all right, anyways, now I'm done. Okay, bye. Wisconsin Hugs.